Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark, getting you ready for all the 2023 draft picks and going through the running backs today. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin or on the Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel, anywhere you can find the podcast. Make sure you give the podcast a like, subscription, comment, whatever it is to help the algorithm gods this week. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. I'm just out here talking to my best buddy Dale, about some football. So Dale, how's it going? You can find him over on Twitter at
Hey,
Dynasty_Dale. You ready to talk about running backs?
I am very excited for all these running backs. Like they're all pretty close together except for one guy, and I'm very excited to talk about him though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one thing, and if you saw last week, we did give our quarterback rankings, so make sure you go and check those out as well. And these are early rankings, so I just want to emphasize that this is pre-combine. This is the season just ended. I want to get these out there now, and we're going to be able to track these throughout the entire offseason because so many times these guys, the A.J. Browns of the world, the Deebo Samuels, they're really, really good, and then, and N'Keal Harry gets artificially boosted above these guys to, for fantasy purposes, it's just not worth it. So I want to get my rankings out there now, and we'll watch how these guys kind of rise and fall over the offseason to see if there's any real big changes there. So that said, like Dale mentioned, there are a few guys that are pretty close together. One guy that's pretty far ahead, but the
Mhm.
nice thing, before we get into names on this one, Dale and I talked about this a couple months ago. There's so many running backs right now in the NFL, in Dynasty specifically, who are going to be 26 or older. And if you've been around Dynasty for a while, you know that there's the old myth of the Dynasty cliff, the age cliff, right? Once you hit 26 as a running back, you're basically done unless you're an outlier Hall of Famer type of candidate. All the guys that are still kind of viable right now seem to be that material, right? You got your Saquons, your Dalvin Cooks, Derrick Henrys, these type of guys who are very, very talented. Austin Eckler, they've been able to push their career longer, more typically. But then you got guys like Ezekiel Elliott who just hit that cliff and looks terrible. So the great days of Zeke are kind of gone. The powerhouse running horse. I think that's where my brain was going. But the nice thing is there's so many guys that are up there. We've been waiting for this rejuvenation of the running back position for a while now. And Dale and I talked about this a couple months ago. That's why I think a lot of guys like a Dameon Pierce is going to be more valuable in fantasy just because of the turnover that we're going to see in the next couple of years. Now, this class is going to help with that a lot. They're going to fill in a lot of those holes. But 2024, good class. 2025, good class. There's always good classes. They're up and down, but there's still going to be holes in there that is not going to completely fill. There's 10 guys here that I'm going to talk about today that we really like for fantasy football. But once you get to the bottom 4 guys, like there's a potential that they're going to be studs in the NFL, but it's going to be tough. So go back and listen to that when we did talk about it. Maybe we'll do it again this offseason and just kind of refresh some of those names like the David Montgomerys, the Dameon Pierces, who are a little bit older, but, I think that they're still going to have value for a few more years. So just wanted to put that out there. But again, this draft class should replenish a lot of those holes. I am very, very excited. So Dale, 1A, number 1 guy in this draft class. You wanna start us off with him?
Yeah, it is Texas running back Bijan Robinson. Uh, he's been the best looking running back this whole year, it seems to me. He's been outstanding. I feel he's giving me very like Saquon Barkley vibes almost.
Very much so.
Personally. Um, I mean, I don't feel he's going to go as high, but I feel he is up there in that upper echelon of running back talent. Um, well, unfortunately, Texas didn't do as well as they thought this year, but I mean, it really wasn't Robinson's fault at all.
No.
Like no, it wasn't at all. Like he ran for what, almost 1,600 yards, 18
Mhm.
touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, you
He's
know,
insane. So while Dale was talking here, I did show one of the clips, and you can just see This guy, and when Dale says he's a Saquon Barkley type of candidate, he's not joking. This guy is built. He's 6 foot 215, so perfect size, and he's probably going to weigh in around 225, to be honest with you, which is perfect, 3 down.
Yeah.
That's Saquon level right there. That's the Saquon territory. The dude looks jacked. He is insane. He's probably got the best hands, the best feet. He's a generational prospect. And I know Saquon was a generational prospect, but that was 2018. It's been, we're going into 2023. That's 5 years ago already. It's crazy. We haven't seen someone this talented since Saquon. And yeah, you mentioned the stats, 1,580 yards this year as a junior for Texas in the Big 12. A little bit of a ding there, but no, 18 touchdowns, 19 catches. And this is one of the big things with him in college. I think that they could have used him more through the passing game. He's so explosive.
Yes.
You got 19 catches and you're averaging 16 and a half yards per catch. That's nuts. That is just absolutely insane for a running back, right? That's you're looking for that from your wide receivers. So, basically he's the best candidate in this draft class. He's probably going to be a top 15 running back, which, is kind of taboo in the modern NFL, but that's just how good he is right now. And there's not a ton to talk about with Bijan. You've probably heard it from other people out there. We're not the only ones talking about Bijan. Everyone's been talking about Bijan for like 2 years, it feels like. He's just so exciting. And he has committed, right? We're not crazy here.
I'm pretty sure he has.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember Jason laughing about it on the baller. So, he has declared for the NFL draft, going to be a top 15 pick, and yeah, he's just one of the most talented guys. Now, one thing, and because we're going to spend so little time on Bijan, one thing I did want to just talk about with you really quickly, and I'm going to drop this on you a little unexpected, so bear with me here. But if you have the 101, one thing I wanted to float out there, because Bijan has gotten so much hype. His value is skyrocketing. He's like a top 5 startup pick now. And
Yes.
that's kind of the Kyle Pitts territory a little bit there. Breece Hall was, I didn't agree with the heights that Breece Hall was getting when he was kind of coming out too. But he was still a 2nd round pick, not top 5. And this is in like super flex drafts too. They're taking him over Jonathan Taylor. They're taking this guy everywhere. Would you trade the 101 or would you take Bijan Robinson? My vote would be to trade, because he's going to be a stud. But look at Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley. These guys can absolutely make a difference on your team. But if you can get multiple guys, the difference between someone like Bijan and, Jahmyr Gibbs, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, who's the number 2 guy in this class. If Jahmyr Gibbs hits and he's the 2 pick, in a 1 quarterback, or the 4 or 5 pick in a super flex, you could get Jahmyr Gibbs. You could get Jahmyr Gibbs with like a Garrett Wilson and maybe even a 2nd on top of it. People are paying out the nose for Bijan. So that's the only context I want to give there. I want to hear your thoughts now. Would you trade the pick, or would you take Bijan?
Well, I really like Robinson, and I think I feel he's going to give you Saquon-like numbers his first couple years. But I think I would rather have that package of what you're like. It's like you were saying, if you can get like a Garrett Wilson, it's for instance, and just be able to trade back and get like their like 2.5 or something like that, or excuse me, not 2.5, they're 104 or like 105, and like Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or
if you can stay in the top half, I think that'd be the one key. Yeah. You're not trading on the top half. You're getting one of these locked in running backs for sure. But
absolutely.
All we're saying is shop it around and see what you can get, because again, I've seen him go, like 100%. People are trading Jonathan Taylor for the 101 this year, which is just nuts. You know what I mean? Like
wild. It's wild.
Bijan is so hyped, and I like the talent, but we saw with Breece Hall, right? One injury and he is done value wise. So that's all I'm saying is and typically, if you're the 101, you probably are more than one player away as well. So just a little bit of advice there. So go shop it around. Bijan, he's not going to miss for you. I feel very confident saying that Bijan is going to hit. He's not going to be who was the guy that just absolutely wrecked everybody. The top running back pick that one year, was it for the Browns? Oh, Trent Richardson.
Trent Richardson.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
he's going to Trent
yeah.
Richardson for us. So
No,
I think he'll be
no.
fine. So I feel very confident that Bijan's going to be a long-term asset. But, if you're the worst team in your league and you need more than just one running back, go shop him. That's all we're saying here. So
Absolutely.
Bijan Robinson, 1A in this class. Pretty big gap between 1A and 1B here, but these other guys are very good. That's why I wanted to put them in the top tier as well. They could be a tier 2, however you want to really call it, but I think that these guys are, if Bijan wasn't there, honestly, you can make an argument for a lot of these guys to be a top 3 pick in a super flex. The first running back off the board, one quarterback, all these guys would probably go as the number 1 overall pick. So that said, we're going to jump into a couple of these other guys. The number 2 guy on my board is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, and he is with Alabama. He switched to Alabama from Georgia Tech this last year in 2022. Georgia Tech, small school, not the most well-known. He was still okay for them, but comes over to Alabama, very explosive, and that's kind of the best way to put him. And if you watch the bowl game, he was pretty good there as well. Not the biggest touchdown threat out of all these guys, but he's just so smooth and fluid, and I think that's why he's probably going to be the number 2 for most people. There's hype about him going in the first round, the back end of the first round, if someone really needs it. Linked to Buffalo, like every running back ever for all time.
Right.
But his stats, again, they're not the most impressive, but it's with Alabama. They don't really need a ton of guys here. They have a stable of guys. 151 carries for 926 yards, 7 touchdowns, 44 catches for 444 yards. Very, very good there in the passing game. He's got very good hands, and another 3 touchdowns through the air. So all in all, very explosive guy, not utilized a ton. Didn't get a ton of carries over at Georgia Tech as well. That's probably the number 1 concern I would have for someone like Jahmyr Gibbs is we saw with Dameon Pierce, right? And here's a couple of highlights for you. But you can just see the speed here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, I highly recommend it. We're showing a couple of these highlights. The dude is just so elusive and so fast. And just one more for you real quick here. But you get him in space and he's just a weapon, right? So Jahmyr Gibbs has a lot of potential, but we just haven't seen a lot of usage from him. Same with Dameon Pierce. Get towards the back half of the season, Dameon Pierce he's just not strong enough for the NFL level just yet. I think that he'll get there, but I just think that we're going to need to slow play our expectations with Gibbs. What are your thoughts on him?
No, I agree with that. He's quick. He has good hands. Even for being at Alabama and them not having as many weapons as they normally do, like he was shining quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that helped him a lot. I can see him going into really any offense that there is. I can see him. I kind of see him as like a Ramondre Stevenson kind of guy that can kind of complement like a Damien Harris type player,
Mm-hmm.
and being more of the pass catcher and and being the third down back, more often than not. But I also feel that there's times where he can be the bell cow and kind of be the guy that is running the offense and stuff like that.
Yeah, so size-wise, he's 5'11", 200 pounds. The number 1 comp you're going to hear for him this entire offseason is Alvin Kamara. He looks like Kamara. I mean, honestly, he does. He even wears the tape on the back of the arms like Kamara. So he just looks like Kamara on the field. Kamara, whatever it is. But that's just who you're kind of expecting him to be. Now, Alvin Kamara was, I think, a 3rd round pick, if I remember right, in their draft class.
Yep.
So the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs is projected as a late first just shows you how valuable he is being considered. Again, in the NFL that does not value running backs as much, we saw it with Najee Harris. Najee Harris was a much better prospect than Jahmyr Gibbs, just total package, right? It was like the 24th pick, I think, in that draft. So running back is definitely being devalued, and for someone to get, first round hype, definitely puts him at number 2 on my board. Landing spot will be a little interesting for him. Again, I think that we're going to want to slow play. I think Bijan, wherever he's drafted, is going to be a stud from day one, more than likely. Jahmyr Gibbs, it might take a little bit of time for him to kind of get up to NFL speed a little bit. They might try and limit his usage early and kind of use him more heavily later on in the season. So just something to think about for Jahmyr Gibbs. If you're using the 102 to try and go make a quick push, he's probably not someone that's going to help you right off the bat. Any other thoughts on Gibbs before we move on?
I do agree with all what you're saying. I feel he is definitely the number 2 guy in this draft. I can see him going later in the first round to a good team, but I think he would be lucky to get there with how devalued running backs are now.
Yep. So yeah, those are our top 2 here. And I'm going to make a quick shift on, and we're going to break out the next 2 guys into tier 2. So we're going to take a quick little break before we get to the next 2 guys. And because I do think that there is going to be a little bit of a tier break in the actual NFL between these 2 guys. So we're going to take a quick little break here. We'll be back shortly with tier 2 for our running back rankings. Thank you guys for joining us again. If you're listening to just this video, tier 1 on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is, just to help the algorithm gods with putting this out to more people. So thank you guys so much. We're going to be putting out this kind of content all off season, so please be sure to stick with us. Thanks, guys.